Hello, and welcome to Uncommon Leadership. Today I'm talking with Joanne Perold. Joanne is a coach and trainer in South Africa. She runs a small coaching business and has been leading teams, individuals, and organizations since the early 2000s. She loves to learn and keeps learning, and is lately excited about Wardley mapping, flight levels, and Virginia Satir's work. Welcome, Joanne.
Hi, Michael. Very nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm glad to have you here and excited to see where our conversation goes today.
Yeah, me too. Very much so.
As you reflect on your journey to seeing people as people and learning how to leverage the unique gifts that each of those people brings, what has had the biggest impact on your progress so far?
Um, so a few things, I think. The first was in back in 2012. I got to go to the Amplify Your Effectiveness conference. And back then it was hosted by Jerry Weinberg and Esther Derby and Johanna Rothman and Don Gray. And I met so many amazing people and just got introduced to a whole lot of awesome, awesome things. And I think that was when I first got introduced to a lot of Virginia's work, Virginia Satir, that is. And so it expanded my brain quite a lot, and it gave me a whole lot of new tools for how to see people, for tools for interactions, and tools for change, and tools for just being a leader in general. That really helped me to see the world differently. And I think since then I've just built on those tools. So used what I learned there, and then looked for, okay, well, what was next that I could grow my learning and become better at using the tools, or learn different methods, or yeah. But I definitely think that was one of the most impactful things for me.
I believe I was at that AYE as well.
Was it the last one ever?
Yeah.
We were there together. How cool is that? We didn't get to talk to each other. That's where I met George.
Ah, yes. I
Hmm.
met him through AYE and Jerry's Shape Forum.
Oh, cool. Okay. I never got to do Shapeform. That sounds awesome.
It was pretty amazing. Um, and that's where um, a lot of my journey has come from, things I've learned through AYE and that his email forum and other people and events around that Weinborg experience.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that work has had a big impact on you personally. How do you have a story about an impact of how you've taken that personal impact and turned that into impact with your clients?
Um, I do. I've got quite a few. So um, I think so. What I've taken, often when I learn new things, I want to take those things, especially if I think that they're awesome, and I want to take those things and then I want to share them with everybody. And I want to share them because I'm excited by them, but I also want to share them because that's the best way for me to learn. If I find something really cool, then I want to teach it, because then I learn more about it.
Mhm.
So, and then I have to know it well enough to be able to tell somebody about it. So it's this dual thing. And so through what I've learned there, I've taken a lot of those tools into organization. So a fairly recent example at the moment is a leadership training that I've creating for a German organization that I'm working with. And we're doing leadership training that's got a whole lot of Virginia Satir's models, and a whole lot of that, kind of speaking about congruence and interactions and change, and how all of those kinds of things as embedded into the leadership training as well. So often I'll teach something, and then what I've learned is that there's so much nuance in so much of what I've learned that sometimes when I learn it the first time, I kind of just get a surface picture of it, and then the more I deep dive or the more I teach somebody else, the more I, I learn about it. And so as I teach it to those leaders, they learn and I learn again. And that's really been quite cool. So I bring a lot of those models into both the work that I do with customers, but also into other training that I do. Yeah. And into how I think I lead the people that I work with when I'm in a leadership role. Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine some of those times as you're teaching these and helping people learn how to use these models and practices themselves, some of the time it just works and is awesome and they get it and they're off and running. And other times they never get it at all. And a lot of the time you're sort of in between, somewhere in the middle. When they're not just getting it awesomely and using it beautifully, how do you move people from I don't get it to, well, I get it enough to start using it and understand some of the impact it might have on me?
Yeah, I've been pondering this quite a bit because I think there's there's kind of the I get it and I'm gonna run with it people. Then there's the I don't get it yet, but I'm going to I want to learn more about it and then I'll get it better. And then I don't know, sometimes I get a sense that there's the like I won't ever get it because I just don't care enough about this kind of work or this kind of stuff, people. Um, so I think identifying the people that really just don't care has also helped me because when I see those people, then I just think, okay, well, that's okay. I'm going to share with you what I know. And if something changes, then maybe you'll come back to me. But if nothing changes, then I'm just going to let you go because neither of us are going to get anything out of trying to push you in a direction you don't want to go in, you know. So there's those people. And then for the people where they kind of are in the in between, I'm not really sure what this is about. um, I, I have a few different things. What I'm trying to do is create more transformational learning. So, what's an adventure we can go on together that allows you to explore this concept in a more visceral way or in a more, I don't know, like practical manner, so that it's not just knowledge that's being passed down, but it's more experience. Like I can feel this or whatever, and see if that could help. Like how can I create learning adventures, I guess, that are more that are more kind of in a space where people can get transformative learning. Yeah, I think I also did problem solving leadership with again Jerry and Esther and Johanna were doing it at that point, and they in problem solving leadership there's a big simulation that they do. Maybe you've done problem solving leadership, but maybe your other people haven't, and it's really quite amazing. And I think during that simulation, I got to learn a lot of stuff, which was so awesome that like even now I think back on what happened and I'm still learning. So it's really kind of exciting. And I think that's what I'm trying to do, is just create learning experiences that are more in that transformational space. But I think it's also hard when you only have a little bit of time or translating some of the things that we do in person into a remote space and understanding like which things can translate and which things just never will. So you just have to let them go, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah. As you're working with teams, presumably the leader who brought you in has found value in what you teach and wants to share that with their team. And some or all of their team may be in that camp of, I just don't get it, or even this is opposite from what I perceive happening or believe is even possible.
Mm.
How do you manage those situations?
I'm just trying to think because I haven't had, I haven't had, I've had people tell me, give me feedback that something was a little bit too, um, what was the word that they used? I want to say esoteric, but that wasn't the word that they used. It was something else. So kind of like feedback that, oh, this wasn't for me, um, from a training perspective, but I haven't had lots of that. And not because I don't think it's happening. I just think that maybe sometimes people are afraid to share their,
Mm-hmm.
like, that this is not for them. So they're kind of, I've been lucky enough not to have a whole lot of people that just, oh, this is a load of rubbish and wow, what are you just wasting our time here for? I haven't had a lot of that. So I'm very lucky in that I haven't had a lot of that. And if I have to think about how I would handle it and how I think I really want to make space and for those people to just leave because, if I think about Virginia Satir's work, one of the tools in her toolkit is this yes no medallion, which just speaks to, does this fit for me right now? And it feels like that person's yes no medallion is firmly on a no in that moment, and I'm not sure that trying to force them into something that is just a big no for them right then is going to be helpful for them or for me or for the group for that matter. And so I want to try and take an approach or for the leader to kind of say, okay, well, that's great. If this isn't for you right now, then, feel free to, you know, do whatever and we'll connect later and find something that suits your learning style or your whatever a little bit more. And then see if I can kind of move them in that direction a little bit slower, maybe a different um different way of approaching the topic. Someone I was speaking to the other day was also about this kind of thing, was like uh speaking about right or left brain dominant or different ways that people think, and some people are feelings people and some people are thinking people and some people don't know how to talk about their feelings, and there's all these different ways of processing information. And so I think that sometimes if we can find the right approach that speaks that person's language, then you might be able to open them up to a new idea. But sometimes you have to find their language, so I'm not really sure. But like I say, I've been really lucky. So the feedback I had from people that have found that it's a bit esoteric, I was like, okay, cool. Thanks for that feedback. And we had a bit of a chat. And then we've got a bi-weekly leadership cohort that's happening. And I expected the person not to come back, but they're there every 2 weeks. And they're the most consistent member of the group. And so
Nice.
I'm like, cool. Well, there's something, you're getting something out of this. So even if that section wasn't for you, maybe there's other things that you're gaining from this. So, because they keep showing up. So,
In some ways, I find those people to be the most inspiring for me personally, because they know that there's something there. They don't know how to articulate what it is. They may not even know how to articulate what it isn't. And yet there's enough pull and they're enough aware of the pull to keep showing up and digging in a little bit more, learning a little bit more so that they can figure out what it is that they want to go after in that space.
and I find that I learn a lot from people who challenge that, because I think it makes me think about what's another way I might share this with people.
Yes. Anytime someone doesn't understand what I'm saying, I assume I haven't found the right way to speak to them, like you were saying earlier. And the more that they're willing to stay engaged with me and help me find the right way to explain to them and understand what they're not getting so that I can adjust what I'm saying so that they can understand it, then we can have a conversation about how it fits. But if they're not even understanding what I'm saying, we can't even know if what amount of fit there might be there.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
And that's maybe the most frustrating thing for me is when I just can't find the right way for time,
Yeah,
helping you understand what I'm trying to explain.
yeah. I think that is very, very frustrating. I can tend to get a little bit overexcited, and then sometimes if somebody doesn't understand, instead of pausing, I can double down and just say more stuff. And then that doesn't really help either. And then I'm just like, but wait, there's more. And they're like, no, more isn't going to be helpful right now. But you missed that.
Is there a specific time you can think of where you missed that signal that they weren't getting and you kept doubling down and it just really wasn't helping?
This morning, actually. I have a little meetup group, and um, we were doing some Wardley mapping. We are just kind of exploring it for fun and just seeing what we could learn. And we were going about it in one kind of way, and I was getting quite frustrated because it felt like it was the wrong way for me. Um, and and I could see like a different path, and I was kind of, hey, so I can see this different path, um, and then I kind of took the path and I just ran with it, and I didn't really wait for anybody to be like, oh yeah, let's go and explore that path with you. And also, when I started on my path, I didn't really make space for anyone else to be in the path with me. So I was just like, no, but this and this and this and then I was just getting more excited and louder, and all the things, and more energetic and faster. And I didn't really and other people were like checking out, and they were, oh, okay. And one guy left the table. And I was like, okay, wait. Uh, mm.
Is
Luckily,
that
I have a
what,
really good friend who gave me some great feedback. And so then I could reflect on that. Yeah.
and what signals have you developed to help you recognize that this might be happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like often I'll go and reflect on past like behaviors that I want to shift, and then see if I can identify the patterns, because sometimes if you're not aware enough like of it creeping up on you, then you can't pull yourself out of it. So you have to be aware of, hey, hang on a second, here's the thing that's creeping up on you, and if you don't watch out, you're going to be in trouble. Um, so so doing that, so this kind of after reflection, so having great feedback from good friends can help. But I also, like, it was something that I learned from Jerry Weinberg, and like relearn all the time, about listening to your body, because it's giving you a lot of signals about something. So usually when your heart starts racing, or my stomach starts doing something strange, or some of those kinds of signals, that's usually a trigger, or a way to be aware that something is kind of exciting is happening here, and now I might need to make some decisions about what that looks like, or how to deploy my exciting part, or my whatever part, in a better way. Yeah. So trying to pay attention, and sometimes it works, sometimes it works, and you can be like, oh wait, I see that, and you can catch yourself and pull yourself back again. Hey, it's okay, we got this kind of vibe. And sometimes it's happening, and you're just kind of this observer in the background going, oh, this is going to be a car crash, but it's too late now. So yeah.
Yeah,
How
sometimes
about
we're
you?
similar. Um, I had some signals from my body. Uh, More for me is how much I'm paying attention to the conversation and how much I'm off trying to figure out what to say next, or what the right way is to help this move on to where it's trying to get to.
Mm.
And amazingly, the more that I focus on the conversation, the more that I know the right way to help the conversation get to where it's needing to go. And the more able I am to help the people I'm working with understand what I'm trying to help them understand, the more I can help them understand what they're feeling and what they're sensing needs to happen next and what they're experiencing, and help them bring that into the conversation and help them move the conversation on their own rather than me sort of guiding or um, guiding the conversation along.
Yeah. That's a good thing to pay attention to, I think. I think that's what happened to me this morning. I did the opposite of that. I stopped paying attention to the conversation. I started paying attention to the where I thought it was should be going.
It's the hardest thing a lot of times
Mm,
for me, and I find for a lot of the people I work with that we
mm,
can just, and it sounds like you this morning, we saw the answer and we just know that that's how much awesomer that's going to be if we can just get there. And we lose track of, even if that is the right place to go, if the people we're interacting with aren't ready,
mm,
then it's
yeah.
not going to be the right place.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Very true.
So, how do you suss out what people are ready for?
That's a great question. Um, hmm. I don't know if I've thought about that like in that exact way before. Um, I think there's like a few things that I do at it's semi uncon sometimes I'm not conscious of it, you know. But I should probably be more. And so how eager people are, if people are eager and excited, that's usually a good indicator that they're kind of wanting to hear more, that they're with you, or so those kinds of things. Although sometimes when the opposite happens, it's actually people are thinking and processing. And so they might have kind of taken in a lot of what you're saying and or sharing or creating a transformational experience so that people can experience new things, but they haven't finished processing it yet. So then it's not that they usually like more at that stage is not going to be helpful. Um, so so when people get quiet, that's usually for me an indication that people are thinking and they probably need a break or a pause here to digest information or ask questions or see how to integrate something new with their own whatever they've currently got going on for themselves. I'm trying to think if there's other things. I mean, there's obvious like very loud kind of hey shut up because I'm not interested in your rubbish sort of whatever like that's usually a good indication that people are not interested in anything that you're sharing or that had enough. um but yeah, but often it's more nuanced than that. Distracted, if people are distracted or if they're kind of quiet or if they're um I, I find that if people are asking questions, it usually means that they're curious, and if they're not asking questions about stuff, then they're not always curious. No.
Yeah,
Hmm.
nice. Thank you. So we opened with what has had the biggest impact on your progress through this journey?
Hmm.
What have you found to be your biggest challenge?
What's my biggest challenge? Great. Another great question. What's my biggest challenge? I think a few. So let's narrow the, like, as a leader or as somebody who grows people, or in general context. What do you have? Lots of
In
challenges.
your personal understanding and activation of
Hmm.
um, the tools and techniques you've found and
Ah,
picked up as you're moving through this journey.
okay, cool. What's been my biggest challenge? Hmm. Um, I think, like, sometimes it's scary to look at yourself and see things that you don't necessarily want to see. I think that's quite challenging. Kind of when where you become aware of something that, like, a part of you that it's not your best part. I think for lots of people, that first confrontation, and I think for me that was also one of the things, that first confrontation of, like, oh, here's this thing that you don't love so much, and then you kind of, so one of the things I love about Virginia's work is she helps people to kind of appreciate these parts and then understand, like, how they're the good bits. So I guess that's the kind of counter to that. But I think that sometimes I'm still, like, when you first become aware of something, sometimes it's like, man, that's nasty. I don't know if I, I don't know if I can appreciate that part yet. And that can be quite scary. I think that's quite scary. That's been quite a big challenge for me. And I think a second challenge for me is sometimes also hearing things like, oh, this is a little esoteric or a little too whatever. Um, for me, when you're trying to share things with people, sometimes it feels um, like it lacks credibility for certain individuals, and that's not true. It's just that they don't really understand. Um, so yeah, so I think that for me has sometimes been a challenge, but in, like, an awesome way, um, because challenges are the things that you push through to grow, I guess. That's like
Great. Yeah.
sticky things.
Do you have a
Yeah.
story about how you've turned one of those challenges into a success?
Um, yeah. Uh, I'm just trying to think of a good one. So, or good examples, I think, is things that. So I think one of the things is, um, Jean McClendon and Virginia came up with these 7 A's for change: the awareness, and then, so first you need awareness of something, and then you need acceptance of something, and once you've got acceptance of that for yourself, then then there's authorship, like owning it for yourself. And if you own something, then you can choose how you want to deploy it, I think. And so for me, I've had some awesome successes with parts of myself that, that facing that horrible part of yourself that you hate, and then um looking at it and understanding it from the perspective of what's it trying to be for you, like, what's it trying to protect you from, what's it trying to be for you, what's positive intent, and then transforming that into something that I can, instead of something that owns me, but something that I own. So, like, it's this part of me, and Jo owns that part of herself, like the bitchy part or the overexcited part or whatever, and allows me to then deploy those parts in a way that makes more sense or is more effective or has better outcomes or whatever the case may be, or gives me more options for choice. So that's been one of my good successes, which I think has been really cool. And then for one or two of my coaching clients, I've actually helped them to do that for themselves, come to
Nice.
terms with, like, a specific part of themselves that
Mhm.
they haven't. Yeah. So I think that's been quite cool to watch that kind of transformation happen.
Yeah. The more we pull ourselves back together and reclaim all these disparate pieces that we cast off for because we didn't like them, someone else told them they were bad, and myriad other reasons, the more we become who we really are, and the more able we are to bring that out to the world. And that's who the world is really clamoring for, is to be us and our true selves and the unique gifts that we bring.
Exactly. It's a beautiful way to phrase it.
Thank you. What else should I ask you today, Joanne?
What else should you ask me today? This has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm just trying to think. What would be a generative thing to talk about? Because there's things I'm excited about and interested in, and then I think there's things that uh, would help, would kind of fit in with all of it really awesomely. So what should you ask me about? Maybe what my thinking face, and I'll try to think fast. Uh, um, maybe what what am I learning now? What's exciting me now about my learning?
Oh, I love that question. What's
Yeah.
exciting you about what you're learning now, Joanne?
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Michael. What's exciting me now? So at the moment, I'm lucky enough to be part of it's a kind of a cohort with a few different people in it, from all over the world doing different things. So there's some kind of big tech leaders, and then there's some coaches, and there's some social workers, and they're from Sweden and the US and China and South Africa and Europe and everywhere. So it's well, that there, not everywhere. But it's quite an amazing place to be. We get together every 2 weeks and we learn from each other. We learn about um, how we're growing as leaders and how we're using some of the models and techniques that Virginia's taught. We talk about the different ways we might use them, or sometimes we talk about things that we're struggling with or things that we're learning. And it's just a really exciting place to be. I learn every week. And I think it's kind of like a coaching circle, but in a very different way. And Jean, who's a long-time Virginia Satir student and teacher of Virginia's methods, is the facilitator and holds the space. And I just watch her hold space for so many different things that are happening or that come up, or and it's also just like this amazing way to learn. And so I think that for me is being very, very cool. And also I started kind of I started on a journey to invest more in my coaching side, but using Virginia's methods, and I really want to do the next level of that. So I did the first level, and I want to move on to the next level because I can see a lot of options for how to support people and help them, and not just as individuals, but I think as groups as well. So that's kind of what's exciting me at the moment.
Nice. That does seem exciting.
Hmm.
What would you like to leave our listeners with today?
What would I like to leave the listeners with today? I think top of mind for me, and maybe it's just because of a recency bias situation, but awareness and acceptance and authorship, like, are just amazing resources at our disposal. Being able to become aware of things that we want to change, being able to accept the things that we want to change, especially about ourselves, can help us to own those things and make changes that we want to see. And I think those are quite simple things, yet very difficult, but totally awesome and very powerful. So, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
I think, maybe what I'll leave people with.
great. Thank you. You have a weekly podcast with a meditation.
Yeah. So it's on a podcast, because of podcast app, but what it actually is it's a centering exercise. So weekly I'll just record a centering exercise that I'll do for myself, and sometimes it's got a theme, what's going on for me, and sometimes it doesn't. Based a lot on, again, on Virginia's the meditations. Take sometimes I'll read one of these. Sometimes I'll
Mhm.
read one of those, and sometimes I'll just make it up based on her principles. And it's usually about 7 or 8 minutes long, sometimes 5 or 7 minutes long. And it's just the opportunity to take time for myself. But then I share it with the world, so maybe other people can also use it and take time for themselves, be centered.
For our audience who may not know what centering is, how would you describe that?
That is a great question, Michael. A very good question. Centering is getting in touch with the best version of yourself. That's the way I describe it. So, when we're in touch with the best versions of ourselves, it's so much easier to deal with anything that life is throwing at us, no matter what it is. Um, it's, it's not necessarily going to be easy, but it's easier because we're fully resourced, and we're fully aware, and we're fully centered. We're zen. We're like right in the middle of that perfect part of ourselves. And so when we can get there, and it's easy for us to get there, then it's easier to deal with whatever else life might be giving you. And so that's what the centering is all about. It's about getting in touch with the essence of you and the best version of you, and reminding yourself of your resources, and how powerful you actually are, and how well resourced you actually are, and how you've got a lot of tools at your disposal already. And so then you can choose how you deploy them, or you can choose what to do better. So,
So, if I might rephrase, make sure I understand, it's being aware of who we are right now, even though we may not have brought all those disparate pieces out back into us yet. We've accepted that that's where we are right now and what we have available. And we are authoring our experience with that, knowing that it's good enough for now.
lovely.
Where can people find you, and what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So best way to connect with me is to connect with me either on LinkedIn or via email, joanne@fathom.co.za, or my business Fathom is on Instagram and on LinkedIn as well, and on Facebook. And we're not sure about Twitter yet, so we're just waiting.
And how do you spell Fathom?
So Fathom is Faethm. Fathom.
Great. Thank you, Joanne, for a lovely conversation today. And thank you, audience, for being here with us. And we look forward to having you continue on this journey with us. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Uncommon Leadership today. If you found these stories interesting, inspiring, and illuminating, sign up for my newsletter. Hop over to uncommonteams.com and use the form at the top of every page. You'll be the first to know about every new episode of Uncommon Leadership. You'll also discover how you can build uncommon teams. If you'd like to chat about doing that yourself, email me, michael@uncommonteams.com, or use the contact form on my website. Thanks so much.